been a while. I definitely said at one point that it wouldn't take me a month to make a new episode, and lo and behold, here we are, 1 month later, finally with a new episode. And not for lack of finding topics, and not for lack of having anything to discuss, because a lot has gone on. As far as like what's been going on with life, life is good. Life is very consistent. I am just continuing to work and just spending time with friends that I haven't seen in an exorbitant amount of time. That relaxing, trying to have a social life and coordinate events and everything of that nature, and getting planning out of the way and working on my own personal other projects, trying to remember that it's like, oh yeah, I should update the Instagram for the page, and work on the stuff for the YouTube. So I have like another project that I'm working on. I got all this different shit that I want to do at the same time, and that's the problem is with being creative is you have all these ideas and you have all these ways about how you want to go about it. But you also have things that you want to do in your downtime. Like I like, watching my videos, looking at essays, and then just like if I have to go over to script writing, that's a whole process. Like trying to stay on top of pop culture and then producing content for it can very much be very time and energy draining, especially when you do actually have like a career that you're trying to keep up with. So I have like career stuff that I had to focus on. My credit card this month just got a damn workout. Let me tell you that. Let me tell you something. Like, oh my God, I have so many things I have to do. Like, and a lot of this is just like stuff I have to do for my job and my life and my career, and then just personal things that I want to invest in, for fun. Like new games, new game systems. E3 happened. Well, if I can get the guys on, I'll probably want to talk with them about that. You know, showing my friends the boys, just eating, meeting people, going out, dating, blah blah blah, all that shit. Like this is a lot of time. It's a lot of time and energy. Trying to maintain a life. Getting back into fitness as well. That's another thing. So training, keeping track of everything. It's just like it's a lot. It's a lot that goes on, and especially when like I don't really have a niche as a creative, it can definitely make elements of this whole, you know, addition to my lifestyle very time consuming. It's like, oh, am I going to shoot this day, or am I going to watch so I can, write this next episode for Modern Black 51, which is still very slowly going. It's just kind of on the back burner. It's like, oh, am I going to work on this book? Oh, when am I going to get back to this book? Oh, am I going to see this person that's in town? Or am I going to see that person in town? Or am I going to spend time with family? But yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can relate just because as the world is beginning to open back up, so too is my options for freedom, which I think is great. It's not really that I'm doing nothing. It's just a lot of my efforts are explicitly focused on content. Um, so that's my long reason and story behind it's like, where have you been? For those that have wondered, where has he been? He's been working, but I didn't forget. I didn't forget. I just needed kind of that little push because podcasting is a lot easier than like going through a video and editing that, which I did as I'm working on this new parody project, which the teaser I put out recently, that's not even close to what the finished one is really going to look like. That's just kind of a test run of a little bit of the audio that I have currently. I haven't fully added in like music effects. Editing isn't fully complete, but it's like about 30% there. I still got a ways to go. But I will say, as far as that project goes, I'm hoping to make that a long term thing. But I say that about a lot of things. So yeah. Anyways, if this is your first time here, my name is Will. And welcome to the Ace Podcast, where we talk all things art, culture, and entertainment, but more specifically, pop culture entertainment, because I guess I can't pronounce the T's and things. We're doing another solo show today, people, before I have to get back to my actual work. So today is actually a pretty light day for me, and that makes me very happy because it makes my life much easier. But how are you doing? How have you been? It's been some time. That's my phone, which has my notes for today's show. But yeah, on this show, usually I would break things down into three sections where we talk like the big two, which is stuff that usually pertains to either Warner Brothers or Disney, or specifically DC and Marvel. But in this case, there's a lot that kind of happened, and I want to get to E3 at some point, but we haven't. You know, we will get there. Hopefully next time, because that happened in the week before me recording today. But there is much to discuss. So let's. Who boy, where do we want to start? Where do we want to begin? Let's talk about let's talk about some stuff with the big two. And I guess adjacent to them, DC and Marvel. So first is WB. So WB, Warner Brothers News. WB apparently has gotten purchased by Discovery. So that's going to be a joint union now. I didn't realize that Discovery was this big, but it looks like the either the CEO or the CFO will be stepping down, and so WB is getting a new head, and it's going to be one of the heads of Discovery. They're going to do a lot of changing and formatting around, and I'm very, very interested to see where this is going to go in the long term, and specifically for as far as their properties go, for like Harry Potter, DC Comics, like all the big stuff that Looney Tunes. I'm curious how they're going to go about like production, and I think this is going to open the door for a lot of additional overlap. But yeah, Discovery's acquisition of WB, I believe, is very intriguing because it's still under, I believe, AT&T. So this is going to be fascinating to see what they do with it going forward. But yeah, that's a little bit of news regarding that. Jumping around a bit. What else do we have? Oh, the CW Powerpuff Girls show actually has to be reshot because the pilot script leaked for the first episode, and the internet, who already didn't approve of it, myself included, unanimously agreed that it was garbage. I wish I capitalized on the moment because I actually do have the script. Somebody sent it to me. And man, I got about 3 pages in, 3 to 5 pages in like a 40-ish, 60-ish page script because it's about like a 1 hour episode for these very rough CW shows aside from Superman and Lois. Yeah, it was bad. It's something that like I say this to somebody that was a fan of Powerpuff Girls as a child. I could tell within the first page of dialogue that this show wasn't right. It was a piece of dialogue that like Bubbles had in the first episode, and I'm like, Bubbles doesn't talk like that. Now I know there's like a thing about like adaptation. I'm not trying to gatekeep or anything. Be like, it's not my Bubbles. This is the Powerpuff Girls that I grew up with. But it's like the way they talk just seems like, and the evolution progression of the characters just doesn't seem. I don't know. I don't think it really captures. I think some of the spirit of what was kind of like cool or interesting about the Powerpuff Girls as characters. Also, the decision to for Professor Drake Utonium, man, what a waste of good talent too. Because the actor they got is the same actor as Turk from Scrubs. Unfortunately, I can't remember his name, but he's like dating Miss Bellum, I think, in it, but he's also like really standoffish. Like I think that's actually an interesting thing, but I don't know if it like fits the way the character was before, and just like the like all as as much as I wasn't a fan of the reboot, I guess you could qualify it as a remake because it's like starting over from zero. The remake of Powerpuff Girls. Um, I wasn't a fan really, and I don't think they really did a great job at like capturing the humor or intrigue or like even the violence of the original and what made them like cool and distinct characters. Um, that one at least they still they weren't like the characterization wasn't as cringe inducing. Like I could still see the things of what they were trying, like they were trying to do modern updates of these 90s characters, but I think it didn't really land as well for like the audience that they were going for. Because I think what's interesting about Powerpuff Girls is it's kind of like, yes, it's little girls, and yes, they are like little girl characters, but it's kind of a boys show if you're going off like stereotypical metrics. It's a little bit more, I guess, masculine in terms of like, violence and having like the dichotomy of these cute, sweet, innocent looking girls like constantly fighting big scary monsters and bad guys. That's kind of a like a stereotypical metric for like more masculine shows. There's nothing wrong with that, because it was interesting because the marketing was more towards little girls, and like, because I remember there being little girl shirts and little girls toys and action figures and plushies and dolls and everything, but like in terms of the actual show itself, it was very like action oriented, and they had different adventures, and they all had like different skills that they brought to the table and different talents, and a freaking incredible rogues gallery. The rogues gallery on Powerpuff Girls is up there with like, in terms of independent shows, it's up there with like Danny Phantom or Ben 10, like of original characters, like freaking phenomenal. But just like reading into the script, I'm just like it. They added in dialogue pieces that, like, in an attempt to update the characters for a more millennial generation, makes them like the most annoying versions of those types of characters. So it's just like, um, like it's almost like they're kind of like the jokes that people would make about the girls. Like, hey, what if Buttercup grew up and became like a butch lesbian, or Blossom grew up and became like, this like smart ass know it all, or Bubbles became like this girly girl, and it's like they almost sound like satirical takes of the actual characters. But I don't think that works, and I'm disappointed because Diablo Cody was one of the writers, and she did Jennifer's Body, which is actually a pretty good movie. Uh, Especially if you like go back and take a look at it, it does a lot in terms of storytelling and kind of breaking tropes, or pushing back against tropes about like the hypersexualization of like young women, and touches on elements of rape culture. So I'm very surprised that a script that is of such a low, poor caliber came from somebody who's actually pretty smart and talented. But yeah, I guess we'll see when they eventually do a trailer for it. Let's see, what are some other things that we have from the world of WB? I guess we can talk. Well, not guess. Lucifer's season 5 completed itself, so its second half came out, and I guess I'll do a full spoiler discussion on that. I'm not gonna stay on it too long, but also looking up something else for us to discuss later. But I really liked season 5. I was surprised, actually. I do remember watching the first half. Lucifer, I have an interesting relationship with, because I watched the first one or two episodes when I was in college when it first aired, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting premise for a procedural. And then I entirely fell off of it for years. And I think it was last year, over the summer, actually, I'm like, okay, I'll pick it back up and finish it. And I caught up, and through all its highs and lows, it's honestly a pretty solid show that I think, could definitely get a little bit more attention. Like, I think the cast is very, very talented. I think they're very interesting. The characters that they portray are very fun. I love Mazikeen. I love Eve. I really enjoy Lucifer and his dynamic with Amenadiel. The introduction of him and Michael as twin brothers. The introduction this season of God as the the Allstate nigga, as Kanye West refers to him. But no, Dennis Haybird playing God, I think, is a fantastic addition to the cast and kind of the storyline that he goes on. The plot for this season, as they switch, because really, like, the back half of season 5 is a little bit more just like season 6 than like, even though I know season 6 is going to be their last season, and I know they have a lot to reckon with, what with the new God and everything that's going forward. But I think it continues to be well acted. The budget is certainly there. I think the show is honestly at its strongest when it moves away from the procedural elements of it. Like, they're, what I would say, are probably the weakest elements of the show, but they do kind of help move the characters around from place to place and allow for interaction with like the actual overarching plot of the series of, Lucifer racking with like first of all leaving hell, and then like his relationship with police girl. I'm blanking on her name real quick. But the detective. God, what an awful accent I just did. But yeah, talking about his relationship. Mena deals with the psychologist. It's just like it's a whole cast of characters that I was very very fond of. With that being said, and talking full spoilers here, full spoilers. The death of Lieutenant Dan, I was actually in disbelief. I didn't believe it happened. I thought he would come back because it seemed like it was so sudden and so random. And I think there may have actually been a stealth reference in there, like a meta reference almost. I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but the guy that ends up killing Dan, um, which I guess kind of leads back to, and it leads kind of back around to Michael as well. The guy that ends up killing Dan is the same actor that plays Chuck on Supernatural, where Chuck plays God. Well, Chuck is God in Supernatural. Sorry, spoilers for if you haven't seen Supernatural, but yeah. Chuck turns out to be God. The actor that plays him, I'm blanking on his name. Like when he showed up, I remembered exactly who he was. Because he looks the same, but he's playing like a French guy, and I'm just like, that's very interesting. So I don't know if they did that on purpose or not, but that's like a really kind of meta element of just like having the god of another franchise come and kill like this really important character, which ends up setting off Lucifer, one of the sons of God, on towards fighting his brother for like the throne of heaven. Um, but yeah, and Lucifer's like sacrifice at the end of the season I thought was great. The war with the angels was really interesting, and kind of the introduction of more angels I thought was really fascinating. You get to see how interesting and diverse they are, and kind of their relationship dynamics and what their personality types are like. And you have this lovely little kind of pantheon of heaven, which I think is just fascinating. Especially given this character, it always makes me very intrigued for Neil Gaiman's portrayal of Lucifer in the comics, because from what I've heard, that's a lot more cosmic and big like philosophies and ideas and weird concepts and journeys that Lucifer goes on personally, versus this one is more it's more group, you know. Chloe, Detective Chloe Decker. How was her name? But yeah, this one's a little bit more focused on Lucifer's relationships with people and particularly with humanity. And I think it's really interesting with what they set up. Because, like, honestly, I really wanted Amenadiel to pick up the mantle and be God by the end of the season. So their decision to have it come to, I think it would have been way more interesting to have Lucifer working with Amenadiel to understand what humans need from God and against their brother. And no one really knows Michael like Lucifer because they're twins. So I thought that would have been more interesting to see Lucifer actually be more humble for once, which is out of character. So I thought that would have been interesting development. But what they kind of did is they used Lucifer as not so much humble, but him learning that to become God is kind of this element of, self-sacrifice and the value of love and human life, and these emotions, the value of like the spectrum of emotions as well. Like his love for Chloe was so much that he said, I am willing to risk myself to go into the Silver City to pull her back down because she didn't deserve to die the way she did at the time she did. So I would rather forfeit the throne of my father God if she has a chance to rightfully live, especially after you know thinking in context. Like, I know he was doing it out of love, but I mean, he also had a very positive relationship with their daughter, who's again one of the best characters in the show, is Chloe's daughter. And I this show is what kind of helps me remember that I have, there's maternal instinct. I have what I call paternal instinct, where something about seeing children vulnerable to like their fathers just actually strikes a really really hardcore with me. um, I haven't cried at anything at a film or TV project yet, but I've gotten explicitly close on several occasions, and a lot of them kind of involve this dynamic. Like it happened in Logan when she died, and so like watching their daughter run up and say it's like I need my daddy, and I'm just like, oh, the tears are coming. Why is this actress so good? Like I'm over here like fucking holding back everything because that child has to be protected. She's a very talented actress, but like seeing Dan go, it wasn't heartbreaking because it was Dan. Like Dan's a cool character, don't get me wrong, and I think he goes on a very fascinating, personal journey this season with like learning about Lucifer, learning their relationship with God. But then his death is so sudden and jarring that you kind of don't believe it, and it kind of doesn't set in, especially with all these angels and demons and everything, people coming in and out of heaven and hell regularly. That you kind of forget that like humans have their own separate lives, and then discovering that Dan went to hell because he still carried guilt with him, and that's what binds people to hell. Also nice to see the pants asshole guy make another appearance, and he's in heaven, and him actually being the one to explain to Lucifer, it's like, you helped me become a better man and let go of my guilt and regret so I could move on and go forth into the kingdom of heaven. I thought that was really nice. And that, he like the strange relationship that Lucifer has had with this one guy, but the way that the writers are finding a way to kind of implement him at least a little bit into each season since his first appearance. I would consider him almost a fan favorite character because I really like him. I think what's interesting to me is that like the way these characters are written, I find myself very engaged with them and their stories and their plots. The Amenadiel realizing that his son Charlie is fully human, and just what that means of as an angel, where it's like you will live forever, but you have to watch your child live, grow old, and eventually die, and kind of racking with that and wondering, it's like what can I do? And then Mazikeen, learning that she might have the potential to grow a soul, and kind of her getting back with Eve, which I thought was interesting. I wish we got a little bit more of that actually, but I also like Mazikeen's my favorite character, and so seeing and Eve is a character that I've always just like kind of really enjoyed and been fascinated with, just to see how the relationship grows, and I always kind of wish we got a little bit of an interaction between Eve and Cain, and getting to view more of like Abel and Adam's relationship with them. But I think even Cain would have been a fascinating one. And then Mazikeen learning to love and be vulnerable, and also this absolutely beautiful shot when they were going on a mission together of just like their silhouettes contrasting against the sunset. I'm like, I want that as like a wallpaper of my uh celestial demonic uh crime fighting lesbians. I could watch a whole mini series just of Mazikeen and Eve doing odd jobs, riding motorcycles. I don't know if this is a revelation for me, but I'm just like, it was so engaging. And then like, but seeing like Mazikeen's kind of arc too, as she's just racking with so much pain and hurt, and seeing how much that she actually cares about Dan, too, even though she always tries to push her emotions off. I think a interesting thing about like this season has a lot to do with the growth of the characters. Even Michael having to learn to be humble in a similar manner as his brother, and like learning the values of human life and things like that. Yeah, I wish I had more people to kind of talk about this show with, because I think it's pretty good, and it ending with its sixth season just makes me happy that something on Netflix is actually getting an ending on its own accord and not running itself into the ground. Because like theoretically, where the season stops, it leaves plenty of room open for another season, but it could very well just stop there, and I'd be like, well, I have questions, but I wouldn't be pissed. But I'm very excited for season 6, and what they've set up with Lucigod is fascinating. So I guess we'll kind of see what goes on from there. But speaking of Neil, the man, gay man, I don't know why I said it like that. Sandman. Sandman is getting its series for Netflix, and slowly but surely its cast has been trickling out. Because this is actually what's funny is as the series will be coming on Netflix. Um, as Lucifer ends, Sandman will, I guess, be taking its place. And what's interesting is they've slowly been drip feeding the cast. I think a while ago we talked about the initial casting itself. Um, And Gwendolyn Christie has been cast as Lucifer. I don't know if we went in depth on it, but that's what's actually rather interesting, is that people were wondering, because it's another gaming project, if Tom Ellis would reprise his role in it, and they went with Gwendolyn Christie, which I think is a perfect casting choice if you know about like his adaptation of Lucifer being inspired by David Bowie, I believe, with like the different eye colors. So I'm like, Gwendolyn Christie very much can kind of fall into that level of like beautiful androgyny, I believe, that in terms of like the more comic accurate version of Lucifer. I think Tom Ellis does a fantastic job in terms of personality, creating like this pansexual being of like just raw desirability. I think that's what's interesting, is like he's very attractive in terms of the interpretation that his version is given. But having Gwendolyn Christie fill in this role, I think she's talented. Granted, I've only seen her in a handful of projects, but I'd be very interested to see what she brings to the role. But I can certainly I can look at her and be like, yeah, I can see why they picked her. It's a very, very good pick. But we got some new ones. We also got pronouns, which I thought was interesting. Let's see what we're looking at here. I think we did. Well, let's just go through the whole cast. So we have Tom Sturridge as Morpheus, aka Dream, the King of Dreams, ruler of the dreaming. Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer. Vivienne Achimpong as Lucien, a gender reversed version of Lucian, who's the dreaming's librarian. Boyd Holbrook as the Corinthian. Charles Dance as Roderick Burgess, which that's so far the casting is very, very good. Asim Chaudhry as Abel, one of the residents of the Dreaming. Sanjeev Bhaskar as Cain, another resident of the Dreaming and Abel's brother. Their story is fucking woof, dog. Kirby Howell Baptiste as Death. This is one that I like. This cast is already extremely diverse. I do recognize this actress she played Grace Monroe in Infinity Train, which is a fantastic show. She was also in The Good Place, so I know she will probably do a damn fantastic job, because she can act very, very well. And I am very, very intrigued, because what's interesting to me is, like I said before, the last time we talked about Sandman, is that you could have just taken the cast from the audiobook and transplanted it to this, and I actually need to prepare my wallet so I can buy the next in the series of audiobooks, because it is fantastic. But Kirby Howell Baptiste, incredibly talented. I like her, and they cast her as Death, and I don't know what it is. Supernatural did it. They're doing it here in Sandman. Something about Death being a black woman just makes it seem way more peaceful. So I'm very, very excited and very, very interested for her casting as Death. I believe the pronouns for them were she, her. Mason Alexander Park as Desire, Dream's androgynous sibling. Donna Preston as Despair, Dream's sister who is twins with Desire. Here's a big one. Jenna Coleman, who you may recognize of Doctor Who fame, as Johanna Constantine, an occult detective and ancestor of John Constantine. Coleman plays two versions of the character, one in the 18th century and another in the present day. So we're getting female John Constantine, which I think this is the first we've seen of it, but seeing her name on a project automatically gets me excited. All things considered, as back and forth as the writing can kind of be within Doctor Who, I have almost never had any issues as far as the casting decisions go. I think the actors that they usually picked on that show are very, very good. So I'm very excited to see Jenna Coleman on another project, something that's, has a big history in a sense. So I think she'll kill it. I think she'll do a fantastic job. The choice to gender swap John Constantine, I don't think it's a bad one. It produces a very interesting, I'd say, I guess, a interesting perspective in terms of where they're going to go with these characters and what story they're going to kind of tell. Because I think it'll be funny to see just a really rough and gruff, annoyed occultist detective as a woman, as opposed to the one we've got used to with Matt Ryan, who again does a fantastic job as we've seen him as Constantine. So I guess this version, this adaptation of Sandman is very much breaking a lot of boundaries, and I think it's going in line with the vision that Neil Gaiman wants. Because I think he's sticking his fingers a lot in this project as an executive producer, which makes me very happy. And I think it's allowing him opportunities to do more with these characters that than he had before. But let's keep going. Joelle Richardson as Ethel Cripps, Burgess's lover, mother of John Dee, and then Naeem Walsh as young Cripps. I'm trying to remember. Do I remember Ethel Cripps? I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, that's interesting. I am unfamiliar with this one. I no, I haven't seen Nip Tuck nor the Tudors. Oh, she was in 101 Dalmatians, so I guess I have seen her in something. Okay. David Thewlis as John Dee, aka Dr. Destiny. That's gonna be interesting. Dr. Destiny. Whoo, what a son of a bitch. That's right. You may recognize him as Remus Lupin from the Harry Potter series, who's also in James the Giant Peach, Dragonheart. He was Ares in Wonder Woman, also. So I guess he is DC royalty, and he will also be appearing in Avatar 3. Let's get right past to. Oh, he was in Dinotopia. Wow, he was Cyrus Crab. Okay. That's some good casting. I think if Dr. Destiny is John Dee, just playing this unhinged asshole, especially thinking about the 24-hour diner or the 48-hour diner. That's whoo, buddy. Yeah, that's gonna be the one I'm most interested in. 24-hour diner. So that whole sequence I think is gonna be interesting. David Thewlis can act very well. I'm glad, I have no worries about him and how he'll do in the project. Let's see, who else we got? Keo Ra as Rose Walker, a young woman who searches for her lost brother and becomes the prey of the Corinthian. Unfamiliar with her. Stephen Fry as Gilbert, Walker's charming bodyguard. I'm back and forth on Stephen Fry. He can be funny, so I guess it depends with what they do. He'll occasionally he can be funny, but every now and then he'll say things that'll piss me off. Here we go. A better look at the cast, but he's talented. He has a good back catalog as an actor and performer, so I'm sure he'll do fine. Razain Jamal as Lyta Hall, Walker's friend and a widow mourning her husband Hector Hall. Don't recall her. Sandra James Young as Unity Kincaid, Walker's benefactor. I do remember her vaguely. So that'll be interesting. And then Patton Oswalt is the voice of Matthew, Dream's Raven Emissary. Patton Oswalt, always like to see him. Oh, yeah, I don't remember if I had talked about MODOK. Maybe I'll talk about that today. But I love me some Patton Oswalt. Absolutely hilarious. Very, very, solid actor. I'm unfamiliar with a lot of these, but I'm very much looking forward to it. Yeah, here we go. So we have Death, she, her. Desire, they, them. Despair, she, her. Lyta Hall, she, her. Ethel Cripps, she, her. Young Ethel Cripps, she, her. Oh, what a beautiful cast this is. John Dee, he, him. Rose Walker, she, her. Matthew the Raven, he, him. Gilbert, he, him. Joanna Constantine, she, her. Unity Kincaid, she, her. I'm actually surprised Joanna is she, her. I don't know why I figured that for Joanna in this case. They might do something a little bit more genderly ambiguous. But yes, this cast is shaping up quite well. I'm very, very excited. Apparently, Patton Oswalt was first cast as Matthew the day before Sandman was pitched to Netflix. So he's always been he's always been at the forefront of things. So I'm very curious to see him portray Dream. Like looking at him, yeah, he has this weird kind of ethereal look to him. So I'll be intrigued. I haven't seen any of his projects, so who knows? But the cast so far is very, very strong, and that makes me very, very happy. So yeah, I am excited to see where things go. Do we have any other news from the world of DC Comics and the world of WB? Something rather funny. It's a little bit funny. Batman apparently doesn't eat Kuda Cat. Yeah, that's right. Batman doesn't eat pussy. So, if you were unaware, sorry, I just got news that the Batman is going into reshoots. But if you haven't heard the news, so there was an interview recently with one of the, I believe, producers. Oh, I guess we can talk about Flash shit too, if I remember Flash shit. But apparently, one of the either writers or producers from Harley Quinn, which is a fantastic show. If you haven't seen it, you should. But they pitched for season 3 of Harley Quinn for there to be a scene of Batman. That'd be something. Batman going down on Catwoman, and they vetoed it. So let's see. Yes, in an article in Variety magazine in which Justin Halpern and Patrick Schumacher, co-creators of the HBO Max adult superhero television show Harley Quinn, stated that it's not a superhero show; it's a goddamn comic book cartoon. That's a minor thing that gets me. I guess superheroes are in it, but they're not the focus. Anyway, the co-creators did an interview with Variety about a week or two ago and stated that DC Comics killed a scene in the show in which Batman was shown performing oral sex on Catwoman. DC was like, "You can't do that. You absolutely cannot do that." They're like, "Heroes don't do that." So we said, "Are you saying heroes are just selfish lovers?" They were like, "No, it's that we sell consumer toys for heroes. It's hard to sell a toy if Batman is also going down on someone," which has since created just a litany of memes about Batman being a capitalist but not a consumer. Oh no, I feel like rich men don't go down on their wives a lot. Maybe that's why they get divorced so much. But anyways, yeah, I thought it was hilarious, but it's also massively hypocritical of DC to kind of come out and say that, given that in Batman, The Killing Joke, he fucks Batgirl on a rooftop. So I guess you're telling me, oh yeah, he'll have sex with somebody, but he won't go down on them. Batman gives me the energy of somebody who's very much a selfish lover. That's definitely the vibe I get off of Bruce. I feel like but does Batman fuck? Yes, Batman fucks. But like, as violent a character as he is, throwing people into walls and smashing their faces into power outlets and shit, you're telling me that is like, oh, but the image of this superhero for children is what we want to purvey. We've done R-rated projects with Batman in them. Justice League, BVS. Whether you like them or not, he's a very violent Batman. As well as, Dark Knight Returns. And yeah, they're alternate universes. But even in the main line, he be beating people's ass. Bloody teeth, broken bones. Where are the other drugs? Like, Batman's been violent, but it's like it's just another aspect of the stupid kind of sexual wholesomeness narrative. It's like, no, I just think it's like the notion of seeing Batman go down on Catwoman made them randomly uncomfortable because it's something that they never thought about really. And I think, the Harley Quinn writers are good enough that it's like, hey, that'd be an interesting and funny like cutaway bit, because it's like, yeah, it would be. And saying that heroes don't do that is dumb, and trying to use their bottom line of like, well, we were trying to sell toys to kids. Well, Harley Quinn is a show for an adult, so kids shouldn't be watching it in the first place. So, like, the fact that this is taking place on an adult show that you co-signed for 2 going on 3 seasons, this is on you. So this is just like, you gave them the right to get away with a lot of stuff. Harley Quinn almost having a threesome and sleeping with Poison Ivy. But like the image of Batman coming up from Selena Kyle's thighs, something is just like, no, good guys don't do oral sex, no. So stupid to me. Stupid, but funny. Yeah, I don't know. That's all I have to say about that. Stupid, funny. There is another piece of news. The Flash has begun filming. And we actually got our first look. Actually, we got a little. Oh, okay. We got some filming news. That's all coming back to me at once. The Flash has begun filming. Shazam: Fear of the Gods has been filming, and we also got our first look at the Shazamily all together with their capes and everything. All their colors are darkened, but their costume designs are different. I like the new costume direction. I think the fabric that they're using is also the same in something else we'll talk about in a sec. I really like the fabric they're using for the suit. It looks better. It looks more fitting to the muscularity of everybody's bodies. Everybody looks fantastic in the Shazamily. I think the capes look good. Costume design is good. Everything's good. The colors got darkened for everybody, but I'm kind of okay with it. It doesn't bother me. Would it be cool if they were brighter? Sure, but I'm not really complaining about it. It's more of an aesthetic thing. It's like, I'm kind of either or with it, but like the designs overall I think look great. Now, the other piece of news, Flash has been filming, and we officially have our first look at our new Supergirl, or at least her costume. And she looks the I like the fabric of it because it's similar to the one for Shazam, but they use the Man of Steel symbol, which is one interesting, and two, it's kind of based off her new 52 design, and she doesn't have a cape on set, so it's either going to be CG or she might be capeless, which would be a bold move. And we don't really know which Supergirl this is. Which, like, first of all, they casted a Latina actress. I believe she's Colombian. I can't remember. In the role of Supergirl, but they didn't say which one it is. I can only be led to assume that it's Kara Zor-El. But maybe it's like her hair is shorter, so it might be the Powerpuff version. It does bother me that she's not blonde. Supergirl, if it's Supergirl, she's blonde, except for that one version of Kara, who, which one was it? There's one version of Supergirl that wasn't blonde, and I can't remember her name. Is like one of the versions of Kara Zor-El. But yeah, we've been seeing like symbols being posted by was it Muschietti, the director? I think it's Muschietti. But yeah, let's see, what are the other versions of Supergirl? Because there's a lot of Supergirls. But yeah, like Karen Stars, personally, Power Girl is my favorite variation of Supergirl. But let's see, there is, what's her name? Sir L is the one brunette Supergirl. So if it's Sir L, that'll be a fucking pull. That'll be interesting. So I think that'll be ballsy because, like, yeah, it's Supergirl, but not the Supergirl you know. But her having like the House of L symbol from Man of Steel is interesting, and there's like a billboard on a bus with the old with Wonder Woman. So I'm curious about what kind of shenanigans are going to go on. But yeah, so I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with this Supergirl. I'm not a huge fan of her costume design, but I think I'll just have to see a little bit more in action, in performance and everything, and we'll take it from there. But Shazam looks great. I'm excited for Shazam. That's my boy. Best DC movie ever. Said what I said. Full chest. And let's keep it moving. Do we have any Disney news? We do. Well, there's Loki. But I think we can talk about Loki in the future when I have the fellows on. What else is there? We did get two pieces of news from Sony. One of which I will pull up in a moment. We got a leak regarding Into the Spider-Verse 2, but first, Aaron Taylor Johnson has officially been, well, I think officially been cast as Kraven the Hunter for, I believe, a Kraven solo film. So that'll be very, very interesting. Yeah. I don't. Aaron Taylor Johnson looks completely different than he did not 10 years ago. Like, even back in, every time I see him, he looks like a different guy. I didn't recognize him when I saw him in Tenet, but I think that's good casting. He's a talented actor. I know he can act. He's making his way back to the superhero realm. I'm curious what made him say yes, because it's the Sony thing for me. It's the Sony for me that did it. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what he's a good actor. He's a big dude now. Looking at pictures of him currently, I'm like, no, I can absolutely see it. I wouldn't have known who to pick, really. I think the only one that might have come to mind is who's the guy that plays Boyka? Scott something. He's like maybe the first guy that comes to mind if I'm thinking of somebody to play Kraven, because he has like that physique, and he's a very, very talented like action fighter. But Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think, can hold his chops. I think he'll do just fine. But we also have a alleged leak regarding Into the Spider-Verse 2. One of it is a piece of news. The other one is a bit of I guess, a leak. So Into the Spider-Verse 2 has, I guess, confirmed that Issa Rae, my girl, will be playing Spider-Woman in Into the Spider-Verse 2. Jessica Drew Spider-Woman, which is really her contractual issues is very, very, very interesting. One should say. Um, just because, sorry, video just kind of popped up but yeah, very happy for her. Very excited for her. Love seeing her win. Issa Rae is immensely talented, so I think she'll be able to bring a lot to the role. But there's like I guess a leak, so listen to me at your own risk. But let's see. Oh yeah, the War Room comes out. I believe Peter Prabiter, uh, Indian Spider-Man is supposed to be appearing in the movie, as well as Miguel O'Hara, played by Oscar Isaac, and Spider-Woman are all supposed to be appearing in this movie. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, okay. Yeah, another piece of news. We apparently got a confirmation for the Silk series, which I guess is happening according to Sony. Don't know what that's all about. Yeah, it gets the Marvel Silk series gets Watchmen's Tom Spezialy as showrunner. No other real news has really come out about it, as far as I can tell. But it'll be a live action series and is expected to debut on Amazon Prime Video, and that is, yeah. The other EP will be Lauren Moon, who wrote the TV adaptation based on the comic book created, and that's all we really know about Silk. Whether or not it's leading into some more multiverse shenanigans, no one exactly knows. But let's see. Yeah, yeah, I can't find it. I can't remember what the bloody thing was, but yeah, it's supposed to be like Spider-Man 2099 is supposed to be in it. I believe Indian Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, and a couple others. I think Japanese Spider-Man might have been mentioned, but it looks like they're going on a little bit more of an interdimensional hopping adventure, and I guess this might be a backdoor to a Spider-Woman spin-off. Yeah, Jessica Drew's relationship with Marvel, between Marvel and Sony, is really weird because she's a spider person, but she has nothing to do with Peter Parker. Again, neither does Anya Corazon for that matter. But I think because she has the name Spider in it, they do own her, which is a really dumb loophole. But it is what it is. But yeah, that's basically all that we have on that and those two. Let's talk about some other shit. All that other shit. All that other shit. So there's a couple things that I watched recently. Let's talk about what I watched. I think I touched on Castlevania Season 4. 'Twas very good, and I think there are rumors of Season 5 incoming. I think there are also rumors that they might be considering Symphony of the Night and stuff with one of the other Belmonts beforehand. But, where Season 4 ended, I think is good. It does leave the door a little bit open given where it ended. It did end with a lot of questions that I apparently don't exactly set up Symphony of the Night, so maybe it might be a loose ending or not, but I guess we'll see. But there are rumors that we're supposed to be getting a Season 5. Let's talk about 2 months ago, I believe at this point, I beat Cyberpunk 2077, which I think is a very, very good game for me. When it's actually, a playable, functional game, I think more people will be able to really enjoy it once it's like, it's No Man's Sky, when it's actually done. I'm considering actually purchasing it again, only because I have a foreign copy where I got all my trophies and everything. So I may have to get an American one in order for me to properly, get through the game as I want to. I put in a good 100 or so hours into it. Love that game. Love the characters, love the atmosphere, but I wish it was not as buggy as it came out to be. Oh man. But do I recommend it? Yes, with an asterisk. Wait until the game is for sure done. I could tolerate the bugs I had. I think when I counted it, the number of crashes I had in my 100-ish hour game time, doing all the side quests and everything, came up to like about 15 on my base PlayStation 4, and it wasn't making my machine like hum like a helicopter. Um, when I played it, but it did crash a lot. Like the way whenever anyone asked me what I thought about the game, I'm like, well, uh, I had a wonderful experience. It's the first time I've ever experienced having a waifu in a game. That was a first. But suffice to say, when I got to the end of the game and the credits began to roll, it crashed in the middle of the credits. So that is my experience with Cyberpunk 2077. Still love it. Still love the game. Can't wait till they release like the actual Ultimate Edition, and I'll probably boot it up on a next gen console to see how it runs. I've been playing that. I've been playing Nier Automata. Very very fun so far. I've unlocked I think 4 or 5 of the endings. I'm going back for another playthrough. Seeing where it takes me, what paths it leads me down. Because there's like what 26 endings. Good God. Oh my goodness, it's gonna be annoying. It's gonna take a while. I actually stopped recently to go back and try out Mass Effect Andromeda. I'm like, well, I remember this game, another game being lots of expectations that turned out to be a big buggy mess. But and I looked at my play times. I haven't turned the game on. I haven't made it past like the first 2 missions, and I haven't touched the game in about 3 years. So that's a lot, like down to almost a day. It was insane. But I figured, the legendary collection came out, so I'm like, well, let me try it again. Let me see. I needed something a little bit different since I've been playing Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne on PC, so that's been fun. But Automata is very very good, very very engaging, um, incredible atmosphere. But the direct it's kind of short, but I see why. Because I think once I got my first ending with 2B, I clocked in like 20-25 hours, including side quests and everything. So it's relatively short runtime. Actually, it might have been less than that. It might have been about 20-25. It was rather short for an RPG, and so I'm like going back and playing through the other stuff and playing with 9S and seeing where that takes me. So that's what's been going as far as what I've been playing. The things I've been watching. I mean, Superman and Lois continues to be fantastic. Black Lace Sketch Show I thought was a solid second season. Some of my black female friends felt like that, like the idea for the humor is there, but they might have needed one more draft in the writers' room just for some of the jokes, because like they're funny concepts, but it's like the execution might have been a little lackluster. But overall, I still think they were funny and memorable jokes. Like I still kind of quote one of the songs like, "And I breathe air." Every time I walk, I see. Breathe with me, air with me. won't you, won't you stare with me, nair with me? That's good. Pause with Sam J is a wonderful series that I would highly recommend to anybody with HBO Max. Because Sam J I think is absolutely hilarious, but I think her discussions are very very fascinating, especially from the perspective of a black female lesbian stud comedian. I think she has a lot of very interesting perspective, and realizing that she interacts with a lot of comedians that I really, really like. Um, Jack Knight, Chris Red, Yamanika Sanders, a bunch of hilarious black people. But just the conversation she has with like, black conservatives or lesbians that want to get pregnant, or just kind of like cultural differences, talking about like cancel culture, how, millionaires and their lifestyles and et cetera, et cetera, and so forth. I think she has a lot of great conversation, not just with her peers from their perspective, but people that are actually in those industries and areas. So I hate that it's so short. But yeah, I've been watching that. Been watching Legendary, because it's just like, once you get to that first episode, you're hooked, buddy. You are hooked into watching these men and women and non-binaries fucking work on that stage. So that's good. And what are I've seen 2 movies too. Um, and after that, I will close out and go about my day. So the first thing I watched was Bo Burnham's new special, Inside. Woo, I pulled some. Yeah, Bo Burnham's new special, Inside. I finally sat down and watched it while I like had a break between my work and everything, and I thought it was fantastic. In my opinion, I think for like the grant comedy awards for the Grammys, I think it should be a nominee. I thought it was funny, but also very, very engaging in terms of somebody whose perspective of being stuck inside throughout the whole, pandemic process was very, very different than the average person. I actually didn't really get fatigue and emotionally weary until about two-ish months ago. Um, the fatigue didn't really set in for me of like not seeing my friends like I wanted to, and not doing the stuff I wanted to do with people because I was still like relatively active most of last year. So the fatigue of being inside so often didn't really set in for me because I was still kind of moving around and hanging out with. I was dating at the time too, so like going out and seeing like at least one person out of my house. I got more fatigued being probably with that person at times than I was being in my own home. And then that kind of moved. So I had a little bit of a back and forth in comparison to a lot of other people, and particularly creatives who were just like struggling with their mental health and anxiety and like just panic and stuff with politics and everything is just crazy, 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 crazy. I should probably mention something else too. But yeah, I thought it was great. A lot of people, I think, had a little bit more average reviews, but still, acknowledge the stuff that works. Like, I think the visuals are really good. I think the editing is really tight. I was talking with Cameron actually earlier, my best friend, who has appeared on my channel a couple times. But yeah, he thought it was all right. He actually was of the opinion that it ran a little long and the points were a little bit belittled. But I think him and I are kind of coming from different perspectives of him kind of want to be a little bit more entertained by the process, and a lot of the project has to do with like not just entertainment but kind of like the fatigue of trying to be a creator. And his perspective and my perspective are a little bit different because Cameron actually he is a musician, a talented one, and because he did that cover of Laid that I use for a lot of my American Pie reviews, and I'm still eternally grateful for him for that. And maybe someday I'll post it on the channel if he gives me permission. But he has the lens of a creator going through that time, as well as dealing with his own stuff. So for him, it's not just passion, it's also like work. While for me, my creative lens is like my side thing. It's stuff that I love to do, but I can put it away, you know. Like I have the option of going to my work, but I guess looking at his perspective, he is a creative. Like that his thing is music and like studying music and testing out like new things to do with music and music theory and like philosophy and history and kind of like his expansive ideology. Like that's his thing, that's his element. So I would imagine if you're going into a project wanting just to be entertained from another creative who is of our generation, I think, yeah, him and I definitely have different perspectives on it. But I look at like I'm looking at my creative process as the option of creative, but his creative process is more so like the necessity of it. Like this is my thing. This is what I do. This is what I'm like. This is where my skills lie, and my skills kind of lie in other places. While I have the option to kind of back and forth. So I think, especially with a lot of it having to do with the fatigue, it helped me understand what a lot of creators went through, and him and I were kind of similar in the prospect of like we didn't really get that fatigue in the traditional sense because like we don't mind being left alone. Please stay 6 feet away from me and wear your fucking mask, please. Even if it wasn't a pandemic, leave me the fuck alone. But watching Inside, I really liked it because it gave me the perspective of a lot of my friends who are creatives, who are artists, who do make, and that is their thing. Rather than for me, it's and it's a lot of what I heard when I was like doing acting and studying acting and stuff like that. It's like just the level of hunger that you have to kind of have to go with it and go through with it, and to get these things off the ground, to make something you got to want it like full body. And for me it's like I really want it. Like it's not that I don't want it, but it's like I have the option of going to something else, to something else, to something else. So perspective I think plays a lot of role in terms of how you're going to interpret it. But I love the songs. I think White Woman Instagram is funny. Welcome to the Internet has a lot to it to kind of unpack that I don't know if we even have the time for. There's that one. What was the one he closed out on? I think was really powerful. I think but the one that probably hit me the hardest was the one about turning 30. because I'll be turning 26 this year. So, Bo was born in the 90s, in 1990. I was born in 95. And so, kind of looking on that is one of those things that I reflect on. Like earlier in the month, I was thinking, like, well, my friends are, actually, we're all in the States. It's the first time we've really been able to connect in a long time. And, these are like my brothers. And I'm like, I might be able to do like a birthday event where we get together or take a trip or go somewhere, time willing. But like the weird thing about being a younger millennial is noticing how the passage of time kind of hits you differently. And I think it's interesting what my parasocial relationship is like with Bo Burnham as a creator, because he was a teenager when I was a kid growing up with YouTube. Having had my YouTube account going on, it'll be 15 years this year since I've had my YouTube account. So him coming on the platform, making a name for himself, making himself famous, traveling, creating, becoming a director, becoming a musician, becoming a comedian, all these huge things that he's done with his platform and his time, but also coming to like wanting to create what he wants to create when he wants to create it, but also hitting 30. And 30 is such a weird number because it almost feels like there's like this pressure with American culture and obligations, like by 30 you should have it figured out, not even getting past the fact that you're legally an adult at 18, but you don't really know the world until you're like 21, where you get just about unrestricted to access to everything except for maybe renting a car, so maybe like 24, 25. So even to go from that, there's less time. So it's like, all right, have it all together by 30. Know what you want to do with your career, know what you want to do with your life, have a healthy understanding of your relationships, know what you want to do with family, if you want to have a family, and just have it all on lock. And I think for our generation, that's a very, very terrifying idea, and thinking about how fast time moves, because I work with people younger than me on a consistent basis. So, and having conversations of every now and then, it'll be like, oh yeah, when I was your age 10 years ago, it's like, oh God, and it hits. But him talking about being 30, so like I am closer in age to Bo than I am to the people I work with on like a weekly basis. And something about that and the passage of time and the speed in which it's like, 4 years I'm through high school, 4 years I'm through college, 2 years I'm through grad school. Now I'm in my literal mid 20s, looking at 30 with these goals and aspirations and looking at where I am now and where I want to be. And it feels so short, you know? And I'm imagining, like, from Bo's perspective, like, you're 30 and you spent like 15 of those years on the internet making a name for yourself. And it's like, what have you accomplished? What do you want to accomplish? Like, especially for a creative, seeing how the world has evolved, seeing how the internet has evolved, seeing how you evolved, and it feels like no time has passed and all the time has passed. And it's just it's weirdly like anti-cathartic in a sense. It almost feels wasted. It's like, what have I done in comparison to other people? Like a classmate of mine from my high school, super duper talented artist and photographer, has made it onto the Forbes 30 under 30, and she's about a year or two younger than me. And then I look at where I am in life and the things that I've done and I've accomplished, which are nowhere near in comparison to what she has, and like the things that I want to do and the time frame in which you want to do them, and like looking at talent in Hollywood that's like younger than me day by day, and in the entertainment industry. And sometimes you almost grow cynical, or you almost grow envious, because you wonder, it's like, am I working hard enough? Am I trying hard enough? Am I accomplishing the things I want to do in a timely manner? Because you end up wondering, it's like, is it worth the effort? Because there's a high probability that I won't do that. And will I be happy if I'm not fulfilled? And I got all of that just from him sitting in silence as the clock went down to midnight of him turning 30. But yeah, overall, still think it was really, really good. I watched that. I watched In the Heights. I thought it was solid. As far as musical goes, it had a lot of energy. I thought that the acting talent behind it was good. I like Andre Ramos. The guy that was playing Benny blew it out the park. It was he played Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton. So I've seen him in that. I didn't know he had pipes like that. Dude can sing. Um, I have friends though that have seen the original musical and they actually have some issues with it. And then the whole colorism controversy started going around, which I thought, you know, I didn't think it was a big deal, but but I don't have the perspective growing up in Washington Heights. So like hearing some of the criticisms of it, I'm not saying they're invalid. I think they are very valid because it was something that I noticed, but it didn't bother me. But I'm also not culturally part of those groups, so I had to kind of learn secondhand why that's kind of pertinent. Because like if you're talking about New York, which is extremely diverse, I thought it initially did a good job until you get to the song number that is explicitly about the diversity of not just New York but these kind of Latin populations, and distinctly not really well including representation of other Afro Latin or Asia Latin cultures and things of that nature. All these other islands, like you have all of like they had Jamaicans, but it's like not a lot heard about Haitians and other Caribbeans, dark skinned Dominicans, dark skinned Cubans. It's very much a certain kind of flavor and palette and perspective that was going on with these in a movie that's kind of supposed to be embracing the beauty of Latin culture within Washington Heights, but I think it did end up kind of neglecting the Afro Latin culture of Washington Heights because it's New York, and New York is one of the most fucking diverse places on the planet. You can't spit and not hit somebody of color and of culture in the city. It's a beautiful city, has a beautiful diversity to it. And I thought otherwise, colorism aside.
I can excuse the colorism, but the dancing is where I draw the line.
No, we don't excuse colorism in these parts. Make those criticisms, people, so they can do better in the future when they eventually do that Hamilton adaptation. That'll be the funny one. A black man is George Washington is funny as shit. But no, I thought the opening number was pretty strong. You can hear the influence of Lin-Manuel. But I thought the story was interesting, but a little bit lackluster. But the movie was more so carried by their performances of it, and the way that it was like shot and edited. I thought was good. That like the dancing on side of the building and seeing their feet move across the glass of people's homes and people like look out, or the whole choreography of the water park scene. I was watching it with a friend of mine, and they're just like, it's like, oh no, the lottery, it's for $96,000, and I'm like, $96,000 is like, it's enough to make things better. Like it'll certainly change your life, yeah. But it's like it's not huge. It's not like $1 million. It's like it's 96,000, which is like if you're living in New York, that's like student loans and then rent for about a year and a half to 2 years. Or if you don't have loans, like that's rent for with all your amenities for probably like 2 years, 3 years, which is good. It's very good, that's like a down payment on a house. But it's just like that's not, it'll change your life in a good way, but it's like it feels kind of sad that $96,000 is like this could change everything for me. And you look at the situation that people are coming from and how they have to like make do with what they have. I'm like, that's nuts, and also kind of sad that it's like it's that what we could we could see as like little quote unquote what that's that's like one 10%er salary for a year is like 96K for one person in a day is like that could fix so many issues. Like I could get a house, I could get a car, I could feed my family and cover my rent for like a year or months. And like that is the break line to stability is less than $100,000. Is like that's the break line for financial stability, and it feels so close, but it's also so damn far. And it's like it's crazy, and it's really sad thing about it from like a metatextual context. But it's like still, I think it's a fun movie. I like the soundtrack, I like the performances. Some people were definitely trained to sing, but some of them also have a background, so it's kind of an interesting blend. But I thought the performances were good. So I'd be really, I'm interested to see what the reception turns out for the movie. But yeah, I'm also getting close to time here, so it's good that I'm almost done. I guess the last thing I'll talk about before I sign off is Meg the Stallion, my queen, Megan Pete, Mrs. Pete E. My wifey for lifey, the woman I stand, Megan Thee Stallion, dropped her video for Thought Shit. Uh, and a lot of discourse has kind of been had about, I think they called it hip hop feminism, which I think that's now what I'm going to henceforth refer to my feminist ideology as, is falling under that. But there's a lot of discussion about the subtext of the video, and once I've kind of moved past the gratuitous amounts of posterior that I have absolutely no complaints about, because my God, what an array of beautifully talented women. Oh my God, I almost disappeared for a second. My brain started to wander. But no, I think that there is actually kind of a bit of commentary, especially with Megan's ways in which because Megan's very smart, and I think Megan's very in touch and aware of what she's doing, and I think she's trying to move very strategically. And I think Megan is a talent, has talented bars, and I think if she allowed herself to kind of move beyond the traditional expectations of hip hop, she could go very, very far. But I think she's very much deliberately choosing to kind of Trojan horse a lot of very interesting discussion topics within her video. So this one for Thought Shit, I think, explores a lot of themes about the need and usefulness of the average working class woman to society, and what they have contributed, uh, not just to men, but just to society overall. It's like, they're the people taking care of our children, cleaning our homes. A lot of them are essential workers. I think Kimberly Foster did an excellent job, and as well as another YouTuber in terms of like breaking down. I think it's Khadijah something. You should check them out. They have very interesting discussions about like the nature of hip hop feminism, and there is something to kind of be said about the nature of Megan utilizing the male gaze to draw attention to a lot of subtextual aspects of like women working, taking out trash, working in diners and like the service industry, and other like just need areas. While also time just making a whole bop banger, some straight heat, and seeing booty cheeks bounce like basketballs throughout the video. Like once I actually when I when I listen to the song without the video, I can catch a lot of the bars that she has there, and I think they're really fun. And I think Megan's like doing her thing and kind of coming back into herself and like the Tina Snow persona of being like cocky and confident and full hot girl Megan. But I think at the same time, looking at the video and having this image of utilizing this like old white senator politician and the way that he decries the hypersexual nature of the ways that women are utilized within hip hop, and derides it and derides the way that women embrace their sexuality more in the common sense, but also is wants kind of that control of body in terms of how he's like turned on and aroused by those bodies, like almost like it's something forbidden, like this forbidden thing of just like, these black women objectifying themselves, they need to wash their mouths out, but at the same time like taking pleasure in observing and watching their bodies for your own sexual gratification. And it's like fascinating, as like it's a fascinating hypocrisy that very, very much exists on both sides, from both like men and women, of just kind of like this objectification in the most literal form of the concept of like black women and black women's bodies, of just like this object that everybody wants, bodies like Megan, or bodies like these hip hop vixens, and they take pleasure in like watching them, and or looking at them on Instagram and the way they move, but also kind of deriding them and critiquing them and judging them for dressing a certain way or moving a certain way or having their bodies develop a certain way. Like there was that whole thing going around with like Monique talking about bonnets and blah 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 blah. But yeah, I think the discussion around it might be. I really like the video. I like the song. I listen to it a lot when I'm working out or whatever. I think it's fun. I think it's has a good beat to it. And if the beat loud, Lil Juke made it. But I think there's a it's a conversation I would really, really like to have with like other people, particularly maybe feminists, about like the ways in which you can control a narrative, but through like a Trojan horse method. I would be very, very intrigued to see more of Megan's talking points about her decisions to do the video the way she did it, because there's a lot to kind of process there and discuss as far as like the roles that women have within society, the roles of women as essential workers, but also kind of like the roles of women in hip hop and modern media, because I would argue that like the driving force for a lot of the cultural shifts come back to black people. As a black person, maybe I'm a little biased, but a lot of the cultural drive and the way that things move have come from us culturally, but we also don't get a lot of credit for it. Which ironically, as I'm recording this, Juneteenth has now officially been signed as a federal national holiday, and you know, 15 bigots decided, disagreed with it, but it passed anyway, so I'm fine with that. Happy Juneteenth, but this is crumbs to cookies right now. We're asking for policy change. That is what we want. At the end of the day, we want change. We want to see it sooner rather than later to protect us and allow us the space to move and navigate safely without fear of either overt or systemic prejudice. Um, and allowing us the opportunity to navigate economically and make decisions that can benefit us, benefit our communities, and help bring us up to a place of greater equity within the country, and allowing us the freedom to make choices both socially and economically and whatnot. But thanks for the day off. With that being said, I think it's going to close it out for this episode. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, or if you don't like the show, leave a comment wherever the comment sections are available. But don't forget to like this and follow the show wherever you're listening to it at. And share it with your friends. Let people know. Get the word out. Hit me up. So if you're looking for me, you can find me on social media, both Instagram and on YouTube at Will the Greatest. And don't forget to follow the show on Instagram at Atlas Comics Elite. On Instagram, that's ATLAS Comics with a S, Elite on Instagram. Follow me, follow the show. Don't forget to like, comment, turn on your notification symbols, and I will see you hopefully sooner rather than later. Be great to one another, and I'll catch y'all in the next episode. Have a good one.